So, reading from the Bhagavad-Gita, 8th chapter, text number 17. Sahasra yoga paryantam ahadyad brahmano vidu ratrim yuga sahasrantam teho ratra vido janaha. Sahasra yoga paryantam aharyad brahmano vidu ratrim yuga sahasrantam teho ratra vido janaha. Sahasra yoga paryantam aharyad brahmano vidu ratrim yuga sahasrantam teho ratra vido janaha. Sahasra yoga paryantam aharyad brahmano vidu ratrim yoga sahasrantam teho ratra vido janaha. Matajis. Sahasra yoga paryantam aharyad brahmano vidu ratrim yoga sahasrantam teho ratra vido janaha. Sahasra yoga paryantam brahmano vidu santam teho ratra vido janaha. Sahasra 1,000 yoga millenniums paryantam including aha day yat that which brahmana of Brahma vidu they know ratrim night yuga millenniums sahasrantam similarly ending after 1,000 te day aharatra day and night vida who understand janaha people. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Translation. By human calculation, 1,000 ages taken together form the duration of Brahma's one day. And such also is the duration of his night. Purport. The duration of the material universe is limited. It is manifested in cycles of kalpas. A kalpa is a day of Brahma, and one day of Brahma consists of 1,000 cycles of the 4 yugas or ages: Satya, Treta, Dwapar and Kali. The cycle of Satya is characterized by virtue, wisdom and religion, there being practically no ignorance and vice. And the yuga lasts 1,728,000 years. In the Treta Yuga, vice is introduced, and this yuga lasts 1,296,000 years. In the Dwapar Yuga, there is an even greater decline in virtue and religion, vice increasing, and this yuga lasts 864,000 years. And finally, in Kali Yuga, the yuga we have now been experiencing over the past 5,000 years, there is an abundance of strife, ignorance, irreligion, and vice. True virtue being practically non-existence. And this yuga lasts 432,000 years. In Kali Yuga, vice increases to such a point that at the termination of the yuga, the Supreme Lord himself appears as the Kalki avatar, vanquishes the demons, saves his devotees, and commences another Satya Yuga. Then the process is set rolling again. These 4 yugas, rotating 1,000 times, comprise one day of Brahma, and the same number comprise one night. Brahma lives 100 of such years and then dies. These 100 years by earth calculations total to 311 trillion and 40 billion earth years. By these calculations, the life of Brahma seems fantastic and interminable, but from the viewpoint of eternity, it is as brief as a lightning flash. In the causal ocean, there are innumerable Brahmas rising and disappearing like bubbles in the Atlantic. Brahma and his creation are all part of the material universe, and therefore they are in constant flux. In the material universe, not even Brahma is free from the process of birth, old age, disease, and death. Brahma, however, is directly engaged in the service of the Supreme Lord in the management of this universe. Therefore, he at once attains liberation. Elevated sannyasis are promoted to Brahma's particular planet, Brahmaloka, which is the highest planet in the material universe and which survives all the heavenly planets in the upper strata of the planetary system. But in due course, Brahma and all the inhabitants of Brahmaloka are subject to death according to the law of material nature. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakayam Chakasodan Militam Yanam Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Sabadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalan Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sirupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpade Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastude Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshari Prijabhanu Sude Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyahevacha Paditanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Sahasra Yoga Paryantam Ahar Yad Brahmano Vidu Ratrim Yuga Sahasrantam Teho Ratra Vidu Janaha. By human calculation, 1,000 ages taken together form the duration of Brahma's one day, and such also is the duration of his night. This chapter is entitled Attaining the Supreme. Krishna is explaining to Arjuna about the devotees who are engaged in yoga practice and who after quitting this body attain the highest planet. And is explaining that those who are constantly engaged in remembering Krishna without deviation, they easily attain my planet. And also he's explaining that those who have come to the highest planet, to the spiritual world, the highest perfection, they will never come back to this material world. And then he's explaining about this material world, all the planets in this material world, from the lowest planet to the highest planet. So all are places of misery. And in each of the planets in the material world, so one who has taken birth is sure to die. He's sure to give up this body. And one who dies, if he has not attained perfection, then he has to take birth again. And again he's explaining, but those who attain me, so they will never come back to this material world. And so in the present verse, Krishna is explaining about the duration of Brahma's one day. Sahasra Yuga Paryantam, Sahasra 1,000 yugas, referring to the 4 yugas, Kali Yuga, Dvapar Yuga, Treta Yuga and Satya Yuga. So these ages together, 4 ages together, they are also known as Dibya Yuga. And so 1,000 of these, that is one day of Lord Brahma, as explained here by Prabhupada in a purport. 432,000 years. Kali Yuga, double of that. Is the Dwapara Yuga, 3 times of that, of the Kali Yuga is the Treta, and 4 times the years of the Kali Yuga, that is the Satya Yuga. So, and altogether, it's around 4,300,000 some thousands of years. 4,300,000. So long, long time. That is the day of Lord Brahma. So similarly, his night is of the same length. And just like in the age of Kali, it is explained that usually people, they can live up to 100 years. And usually that is all, that is the maximum mostly. Of course, some they may live also longer. Those who are pious, those who are doing yoga, they may live longer. But generally, even to reach 100 years is not very common. So Lord Brahma, so he lives, as explained here, 311 trillion years and some billions of years. Very long time. But as explained by Krishna, even then Lord Brahma, he has to give up his body. And whoever is in Satyaloka also has to give up the body. Although they may live such a long time. But this birth and death, that cannot be avoided in this material world. And similarly, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi, if one has taken birth, then one is also, of course, growing, and then diseases may come, and they come and go, and eventually, and one will enter into old age, unless one, of course, sometimes persons, they have to die before old age. But generally, if one is living full lifespan, which one is expected to live, and one should try to live up to 100 years, so then old age is unavoidable. Especially on this planet, Earth, but it is mentioned that in the higher planet, practically there is no disease. And also old age is not there. Still they're getting older and they live up to 100, but they're not so much inconvenienced. Not so much inconvenience is there as in this material world, in the heavenly planets. So there is more enjoyment, and one can live more peaceful, and one is more happy. Because this planet, so, and the persons living there, they are more in the mode of goodness. But nevertheless, old age and disease, and then ultimately death, they can never be avoided. The only way is by engaging in devotional service. And of course, that also one has to engage in pure devotional service. And then only one may attain the highest planet, Golok Vrindavan, or Shvetadip Navadvip, or any of the Vaikuntha planets where the different Vishnu Murtis are residing. And so if one is able to attain the supreme destination, as explained in the previous verses, then one is not having to take birth again in this material world. One is ever liberated. And there all the living entities are engaged in the service of the Supreme Lord. And they are all eternal. And they are full of bliss. And they have perfect knowledge, understanding. And so Krishna actually is trying to bring the conditioned souls to the spiritual world. Because by nature, Jivera Sarupa Hoy Krishnera Nittadas. All the jivas, all the living entities are by nature servants of Krishna. Or they may be servants of Ram or Vishnu, Narayan. So it is natural to be there in the spiritual world. At the same time, by the arrangement of the Lord, so some living entities, they are always engaged in the service of the Lord. They are known as Nitya Siddha, Nitya Mukta, eternally perfect, eternally engaged in the service of the Lord. And they will never fall in this material world in conditioned state, in conditioned life. So they are ever liberated. Krishna has explained that also later on in the 15th chapter. So there are two kinds of jivas, those who are always engaged in the service of the Lord, those who are infallible, those who do not fall down from the spiritual realm, and then those who are fallible. But even those, they are known as those who are fallible, they are known as Nitya Bada or Anadi Bada. Since time immemorial they are conditioned. They are also eternal servants of Krishna. By nature. But they are in conditioned state. They are not serving Krishna. And their existence, their sarup, is in seed-like form. So their relationship with Krishna, that is inherent, just like in a seed. You may have a mango seed, the seed of a mango, and inside the mango seed the potential is there to become a tree. If you plant in the ground and you put water and the ground, the soil is fertile and the water is there and then the weather is good and so then it will sprout and then it will grow. It may take years, the mango trees to become big, it takes many years. But eventually then the fruit will be there. The mangoes will be there. So inside the mango seed, so the mango tree is there, so to say, but it is not manifested. Similarly, jivas by nature, their form is there, the transcendental form is there, but it is not manifest. It is in seed-like form, it is dormant. When this material world is manifested by the will of the Lord again, then some of the jivas who are conditioned in the spiritual sky, they come to this material world. And by the mercy of the Lord, or by the mercy of the representative of the Lord, the pure devotees, the spiritual master, then the jiva awakens. The living entity can awaken and can understand his position as spirit soul, being completely different from this material body. And then as they continue engaging in devotional activities under the guidance of the pure devotees, the representative of the Lord, then they can advance further and further and further. And ultimately they can perceive their transcendental existence as spirit soul, completely apart from the gross and subtle body. And when they advance further, they can see the transcendental form and understand their relationship with Krishna or with Vishnu or Narayan. And if they go further on, then they can engage in the transcendental loving exchange with the Supreme Lord. And when they become perfect, which is known as Swarup Siddhi, a realization of one Swarup, then after giving up the body, they can enter the pastimes of the Lord in one of the universes where Krishna is performing his pastimes. And then they will attain Vastu Siddhi. So they can practically engage in the transcendental loving service of Krishna. And once that is attained, one will never come back to this material world in conditioned state. However, by the mercy of the Lord or by the arrangement of the Lord, just like when Krishna himself is coming or Mahaprabhu is coming, Ramchandra Bhagavan is coming, then his associates are coming also in this world. But just like Krishna is never conditioned, so the eternal associates of the Lord, they are also never conditioned by the modes of material nature, by the external energy. They remain transcendental. So once one has become perfect, still one may come again with the Lord to this world, but then one will be in liberated state. And one will be always engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. So that is attaining the Supreme, that is the highest position. That is what all the sadhakas are trying to obtain, perfection in spiritual life. So by the mercy of the spiritual master, by the mercy of the Lord, so that is possible to attain even within one lifetime. If everything is favorable, if one is very sincere and serious. So whereas if one is not perfect in one's spiritual life also, as explained by Krishna himself, in the second chapter, that if one has not attained perfection, then he may take birth again in this world, in a family of devotees, or in a pious family. And then one has again the opportunity to advance further in spiritual life. And some, as explained here and indicated by Prabhupada also, and specifically it is mentioned about the sannyasis. So sannyasis means those who have given up all material activities and who are fully engaged in spiritual activities. And of course, even it is mentioned there are two kinds of transcendentalists. One is the impersonalist and one is the personalist. So some are saying the absolute truth has no form. The Brahma Jyoti, the big light. So that is the absolute truth. In one sense it is all right, but it is not the complete understanding. The absolute truth is one. And there is light there. But it is explained by Krishna himself, Brahmanahi pratishtaham. That is effulgence, the Brahman, the impersonal aspect of the absolute truth. that is coming from Krishna also. It is mentioned that is actually Krishna's effulgence, the Brahma Jyoti. So, but even the impersonal aspect of the Absolute Truth, that is accepted as the Absolute Truth, because it is coming from Krishna and it is not different from Krishna. At the same time, there is a difference also. Achinta Beda Bed Tattva, as Mahaprabhu has given this philosophy of simultaneous one and difference. And it is achintya, it is inconceivable. With material consciousness, with material intelligence, we cannot understand the Absolute Truth. But by surrendering to the Supreme Lord, by His mercy, we can get a glimpse of the Absolute Truth. And we can understand that the impersonal aspect is not different from the Lord, but at the same time it is different. It is part of Krishna. So in one sense it is Krishna also, but at the same time the Brahma Jyoti is also separate. So, but Krishna has a form, a transcendental form which is eternal, Sat, Chit, full of knowledge and bliss, Anand. And He's unlimited, He's Vibhu, Ananta, Ananta Krishna. Krishna is unlimited. And the impersonal aspect, Krishna's effulgence, is all-pervading in the spiritual realm. Even ultimately, the material world is simply in one little part of the spiritual sky. The effulgence of the Lord. And that is manifested also by the will of the Lord, the material world. So for the living entities who come here to... and so the Supreme Lord is very merciful, and He doesn't want... He is not forcing anyone to serve Him. But the choice is given to the jiva, to the living entity. So most of the living entities are serving Krishna since time immemorial. Voluntarily, lovingly. But even those who are conditioned since time immemorial, so when they come to this world, they have a chance. They can decide either to serve Krishna or to try to be independent of Krishna. And then they're under the modes of material nature if they try to be independent. And then they have to struggle. Sometimes more, sometimes less, sometimes they're on the planet of Brahma. But if they do not attain perfection, then they have to again come to this material world. Or if one is sinful, due to the influence of the modes of material nature, the lower modes, then one can go to hell, to the lower planets. So one may go up and down, up and down. So even if one is going to Brahmaloka, there is no guarantee that one will go to the spiritual world. But great chances are there, and mostly Lord Brahma, after giving up this body, so he will go to the spiritual world. Mostly, but not always. Similarly, those who are there, many of them, sannyasis, yogis, from Brahmaloka they may attain the highest situation. But not all of them. Some they will again have to take birth. So, even from the highest planet. So the sannyasis in this world, they may be impersonalists or personalists. If they have, of course, not attained perfection, then they may go to Brahmaloka. Whereas the impersonalist sannyasis, which are there, but which is also very rare actually. Some of the personalist sannyasis, they will go to the spiritual world, to the Brahma Jyoti, because they are meditating on the Absolute Truth, on the impersonal aspect of the Absolute Truth, the void, the light. And they want to become one, and their desire may be fulfilled. but they're not completely one with the absolute truth, in such that their existence is finished, as some think and say. If one is merging in the impersonal aspect, then one's existence is gone. One becomes one with the absolute truth. So from one point of view, one is one with the absolute truth, because one is entering the Brahma Jyoti, but at the same time, the soul is not vanquished, the soul is still there. But again, in the conditioned state, as Nitya Bada, not serving Krishna, like before, coming to this world. And then, again, he may come to this world after trillions and trillions and trillions of years, whenever this material world is again manifested. So this material world is sometimes manifested and sometimes not. And it's also the sannyasis who are engaged in devotional service. Sometimes they may not attain perfection, but then they may go to Brahmaloka. Or some of the other higher planets, Tapaloka, Janaloka, Mahaloka. So these are the planets where highly elevated souls are going. Those who are not so elevated, but they may be pious persons on this planet, they may go to Indraloka, to Svarglok, Bhuvarlok, which are little higher lands, and there's plenty of opportunity for sense gratification. But from there, even to go to the spiritual world, this is very difficult and very rare. Mostly they will come back to this earthly planet. But the goal is to attain the Supreme, as Krishna is explaining to Arjuna, and is explaining for the benefit of the fallen conditioned souls. The Bhagavad-Gita so is spoken to Arjuna for the benefit of the fallen conditioned souls by Krishna's plan. So the devotee should try to make as much advancement as possible. And one should try to attain perfection in spiritual life, so that we may be able to enter the pastimes of the Lord. But even if one has not attained perfection, if one is on the right path and endeavoring for perfection, if he doesn't achieve in this lifetime, the next lifetime he has the chance to become perfect. So therefore the devotee who is engaged in the devotional service, he does not have to worry for anything. And he's simply engaging in devotional service. And so that then he is already properly situated. Because the living entity's natural position is to serve. Dharma. So that is sometimes translated as a religion. And then of course Dharma also means the constitutional position of the living entity. And that is to serve Krishna. So that is really religion, is to serve Krishna in a transcendental loving exchange. So it is also explained that actually the earthly planet, those who are on this planet, they have the best opportunity to make their life successful, to make their life perfect. Because for example, in the lower planetary systems, so the jivas there, from there to go to the highest planet is most difficult. It is practically not possible. Because that is usually a place of suffering, where one is being punished for one's sinful activities. And then again one will come to this earthly planet and one gets another chance. And so even going to the higher planets, especially Svarglok, where there's a lot of enjoyment, there facility for enjoyment, material enjoyment, and then there's a tendency there to forget. Even in the material world we can see sometimes people who have a very good life, and so they may not necessarily be interested in spiritual life, because everything they need and they want, they have attained. And they can become conditioned, as Krishna is explaining also. Sometimes in the mode of goodness, one is nicely and happily situated, and one becomes conditioned by that. And then one will not be engaged in devotional service. So therefore, even those who go to the heavenly planets, usually they will come back here. Only very few, especially from the higher planets, Mahalok, Janalok, Tapalok and Satyalok, some of them they are elevated to the spiritual world, but not all of them. Many of them they have to come back also, they come back to this material, to the earthly planet. And therefore it is mentioned that even the demigods, they pray, oh, let us take birth, especially in the holy places, like Jagannath Puri, Vrindavan, Navadvip. Because here in this world, so there is some enjoyment there, and but then there is also some suffering there. So it is mixed. And there, usually, the Supreme Lord, of course, He may also appear in the heavenly planets, usually. He's appearing there also in one of His incarnations. Sometimes even in... sometimes the Lord may also go to the lower planets, but more rarely. But He also regularly comes to this world, to the earthly planet, and especially Bhumandal, so in the tract of land known as Bharat Varsha, which is the center of Bhumandal, and the center of that is, so that is known as Jambudvip, which is divided in 9 varshas, 9 parts. So that is also explained. The southern part of Jambudvip, most southern, so there are 11 varshas in the center, and then there are 2 varshas in the north, 2 in the east, 2 in the west, and 2 in the south. So Bharat Varsha is in the south. More than north of Bharat Varsha is Kimpurush Varsha. And then after that, in the center is Elavarita Varsha. So Bharat Varsha is considered very special because here, the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is appearing, and after him Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And so many others, especially also mentioned is Ramchandra Bhagavan, he also appears in Ayodhya, in Bharat Varsha. So therefore it is also known as Punya Bhumi, very pious place, that is Bharat Varsha. And it is not only actually what is known today as India, but it is actually the whole planet as we know, that is part of the greater Bharat Varsha, as explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And so from this place, because of the Lord having come here, so it is very special, and the special potency is there, like the potency of the holy places, Navadvip Dham, Vrindavan Dham, Jagannath Puri. But then even in general, even the whole Bharat Varsha, because the potency is actually widespread of the holy place. So whole of Bharat Varsha is considered to be pious. So it is in this planet it is a little easier to perform devotional life by the mercy of the Lord. Although the age of Kali is the lowest of the ages, and the people live up to 100 years, whereas in other ages they will live longer. But still, in comparison to the heavenly planets, it is very insignificant. Even in the other ages like Dwapar Yuga, they live up to 1,000 years. But it is nothing in comparison to Brahma's life. So, but even in the age of Kali, by the mercy of Mahaprabhu, one can rapidly advance in spiritual life. By chanting the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. By chanting the Maha Mantra, so one can advance very swiftly towards the highest destination. So, by realizing Krishna's wonderful form and one's own form. So, therefore, the intelligent devotees, they will take shelter of the holy names, they will take shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, taking shelter of Mahaprabhu means serving Mahaprabhu, the deity form, or following his instructions, chanting the holy names, and of course we have to hear also about the glorious activities of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the spiritual realm and in this planet also. Aprakat Lila and Prakat Lila. And Mahaprabhu himself is the Supreme Lord, is no different from Radha and Krishna. And he, by his example, he was showing how to engage in devotional service. He himself was chanting, setting the example, showing others, being the best example. And he was, especially after taking sannyas, he was constantly absorbed in chanting the holy names, by doing japa and by sankirtan also, together with others chanting in the streets of Puri. And also he was engaged in then hearing about the wonderful pastimes of Krishna. Every evening in his place near the Jagannath temple, in the house of Kashi Mishra, also a great devotee of the Lord. So there he had a small room known as Gambira, and he was staying there chanting the holy names. And then two of his very confidential devotees, Swarup Damodar and Rai Ramananda, they used to come. And they used to hear, or they used to discuss with each other about the wonderful pastimes of Krishna with his associates. But specifically, they were engaged in hearing about the pastimes of Krishna with the gopis. So because the gopis are the most elevated of all the devotees of Krishna. And because Mahaprabhu is no different from Radha and Krishna. And in the pastimes of Radha Krishna, the gopis are there assisting the divine couple in their pastimes. So he was relishing hearing the pastimes of Radha Krishna, especially also the moods of Srimati Radharani. So in this way, setting the example for the devotees and our acharyas, mostly in our sampradaya, they are gopis and manjaris, assistants of Srimati Radharani. And they gave these transcendental literatures for our benefit. Of course, we are reading Bhagavad-Gita to understand we are not this body, we are spirit soul. And we read the Bhagavatam too, so that we may be able to properly engage in devotional activities, following Varna, Ashram, Dharma also, following the rules and regulations. But then the essence of the 10th canto, that is the Bhagavatam. And the essence of the Bhagavatam, the 10th canto, so that is Krishna Lila, the first part of the Bhagavatam, from the 1st till the 35th chapter. Krishna's pastimes in Braj. And the essence of that is the pastimes of Krishna with the gopis, especially related to Ras Lila, the transcendental dance of Krishna with the gopis. Sarva Manoram, which is to be considered very sweet and most wonderful, most relishable for Krishna and the gopis. So the acharyas in our line, so they have given these wonderful pastimes of Krishna to be studied, to be heard, and to be sung, and to be remembered Because without hearing about Krishna in Braj and his pastimes, and without remembering them, one will never go to. One cannot go to Golok. Not possible. Of course, also the other pastimes are revealed with Krishna and the friends, and Krishna and his parents. And so we have to hear these pastimes. And one has to study the mood of the different devotees. And then by being absorbed in that, then we'll have the proper consciousness and we can properly chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And eventually one can become perfect. And then one can enter the pastimes of the Lord. And then one will not have to take birth again in the conditioned state. So that is the perfection of life. Hare Krishna. Any question? Yes.
In some of the earlier texts, we were reading about the jnanis and the yogis, those who are not bhakti-yoga.
Right, yes.
They go, they meditate, and they may go back to Godhead. So, are these devotees, do they go to the Vaikuntha planet? Like, do they have Samithya, Samudya? Do they go there? Do they go to Vaikuntha planet? I was reading in Srimad Bhagavatam that, I forget which canto, the canto where Bhishma Dev is leaving his body.
Yes.
And he's seeing Krishna. So, and when he left his body, he was a pure devotee, he was a yogi, and he went to the Vaikuntha planet, where Krishna performs his eternal pastimes as part of the saga. So I just want to know about these other, like jnanis and the yogis. Do they go to Vaikuntha planets, or who goes to the Vaikuntha planets?
Yes. Who goes to the Vaikuntha planets? Those who are worshipping Vishnu, Narayan, the form of the Lord.
Those meditators?
Those who are meditating on Vishnu, they may go to Vishnu Loka. Those who are meditating on Ram, they will go to Ram. And those who meditate on Krishna, they can go to Krishna Loka. That's how it is. So even now we can see, for example, in South India, there are many who are worshipping Lakshmi Narayan, Vishnu, and they may attain perfection and go there.
Vaikuntha.
Yeah, Vaikuntha, yeah. And of course then it is explained about the yogis who are meditating on the super soul, Paramatma. But even there are different kinds of yogis. Some they also want to ultimately merge with Paramatma. These are just ultimately like the Mayavadis. They want to merge with the impersonal Brahman. Or if one wants to merge with the Paramatma, with Vishnu, that is also not the ultimate liberation. One will, so even one may attain that, but that is then not the full liberation, and one will, again, will have to come to this material world at some point. But there are some yogis who then meditate on Vishnu, or if they have the proper understanding that Paramatma is actually an expansion of Mahasankarshan, of Vishnu, one of the Vishnu Murtis in Vaikuntha. So if one must have the proper understanding, then one may be liberated and go to Vaikuntha. And Arucha Kritsena, so even the Mayavadis who are meditating on impersonal Brahman, they may go there, but their intelligence is not, they don't have the correct understanding. So therefore they don't get the ultimate liberation. It is only partial liberation, not full liberation. So it depends. So one must have the proper understanding, correct understanding, and then one has to follow the proper process by which one can attain perfection and go to Vaikuntha or go to Ayodhya or go to Golok, Krishnaloka. So the proper understanding must be there, and one has to follow the process in order to go there. It is not so easy. Of course, if we are fortunate and we are in proper association of the pure devotees, then we can go to the destination. Therefore, it is explained by Krishna Bhagavad-Gita, one has to approach the spiritual master who has seen the truth. One has to serve him and one has to inquire. And then under the guidance of the pure devotee, then one may follow the process properly and one may attain liberation.
So it means even if they have the form of Krishna or they get to associate with him, they may come back still.
If they are not perfect, yes. Yeah, for example, we know Krishna is the Supreme Lord. And we may engage in devotional service, but if we have not attained perfection, we have to take birth again. We have to attain perfection. That is known as Sarup Siddhi or Sarup Gat. Prabhupada has explained in the introduction actually. If one is realizing one's relationship with Krishna and Golok, as a servant, as a friend, or having parental affection or conjugal relationship or understanding, or love, then if one is understanding this practically as realized and engaged in that mood, then one may attain perfection. And one may go there, otherwise one has to take birth again. Okay? All right. Anything else? Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki. Hare Krishna.